if you eat natural foods daily, the second you put something bad inside of you, your body goes abort mission. And it happens quick.
Don't give up. If your child doesn't like avocados or bananas, you need to keep trying and trying until they get used to it.
Walking and running the same distance burns the same amount of calories. So if you run 5 miles and you walk 5 miles, you will have burned the exact same amount of calories.
You cannot have an 11-year-old, 10-year-old sit down and say, well, this is, a carcinogen. This is, blah, blah, blah. You'll lose interest.
Absolutely.
But the way you do it is so playful, like, come on, let's all cook together. Yes. And that's what really interests children to healthy eating versus I don't know what the kitchen's about. Let's grab Carl's Jr. Let's grab In-N-Out.
Everything you put in your body can affect your body in either a positive way or a negative way.
If we want to fight obesity and disease and all kinds of like health issues, consuming food, we need to teach children from a young age because it's those little girls, it's those little boys who grow up to be parents.
I ran into children that thought their eggs came from the grocery store and didn't know that it came from chickens.
Hello, everyone. Today's guest was Ara Zada. He's a chef. He honestly is jack of all trades. I am still blown away with our conversation. He literally just left 10 minutes ago and I'm doing this intro, but I really wanted to kind of talk to you guys about him a little bit because I think this episode is going to be one of the episodes that win the hearts of all mothers and fathers. Ara was incredibly knowledgeable. We talked so much about the food industry. We've talked about everything from real meat, fake meat. We've talked about produce and how to properly shop, what to put in our bodies, what not to put in our body. We delved into obesity and what's happening with the United States and why we are known as the fattest country with rates of obesity going up, mental health going up. We've talked a lot about data research on food and dairy and why we shouldn't consume milk and what really milk is about. He was just so insightful. And I think after watching this episode, you guys are really going to think twice about what you put in your refrigerator and how you shop. He really did give knowledge about what to buy. And some of his knowledge and insights were quite interesting to the point where you even get to the grocery store and what you need to look for. He talked about baby food, which a lot of moms, I think, will be really appreciative of this. And just interesting human being. By the way, you guys, he hunts his own meat. He has chickens, so chickens makes eggs, and he gives them organic food, things that he eats. I mean, it was just such a wild conversation. I'm smiling huge because I learned so much from him, and I think you guys are definitely going to be intrigued. So stay tuned for this episode with Ara Zada, and be mindful and open to this conversation. I know that it's heavy topics, so sometimes you can feel very overwhelmed because it is a wealth of knowledge on food and consumption, but be open to it because once you are open, you're definitely going to learn a lot. And if you're interested in these podcasts and you find them helpful, please click on the link and subscribe because it's immense support. And I appreciate you guys watching and commenting. And I am so grateful that you are here with me today. So let's go and enjoy this episode with Ara Zada. Hi, Ara.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you for having me here.
Of course. Thank you for accepting my invitation. It's an honor to be here with you.
Awesome. An honor. The honor is mine.
Thank you. So we got to talking. We've been talking for like a good 15 minutes.
Yes.
And we're like, let's just pause because it's getting serious.
It's how it goes.
That's just going to talk on air. So tell me a little bit about yourself, like your Armenian background. Is it Armenian?
It's Armenian. So I grew up in a Egyptian Armenian household. My mom was born in Egypt. My grandparents were born in Egypt. My dad was born in Israel or Palestine, depending on the week or the day or the year. So my birth certificate says one thing, my brother says another, because there's like a divide always. Obviously, The border is always moving. My parents were separated. So I was with my mom majority of the time. And my family spoke Arabic a lot. So they taught us Armenian and they spoke Arabic amongst themselves. But I went to Armenian school. I went to AGBU in Canoga Park from
Yes.
pre-K to 6th grade. And then I ventured off into public school, which was
Mhm.
something I always wanted to do, but my mom kind of kept me in. She held my
Was
grounds.
it
And
a different change for you
it was a
going
big
into
transition. I wanted it. All my friends in my neighborhood were going to the schools that were locally. So I wanted to go with them. And I did have a lot of friends in my Armenian school, which oddly enough, it's kind of crazy because those friends, I might have not have spoke with them for years, 15 years. And later in life, we've reconnected and we never missed a beat. So I'm still really, really close with my friends from elementary school, closer
Yeah.
than I am with friends that I went to high school with, which
It's
is,
always like that.
yeah,
I think private schools do a really good job providing this sense of family.
yeah,
And that's my son's in private school too.
yeah.
And I love that family concept.
Yeah, it's incredible. A lot of our views were the same, and I do have very close friends from my public high school that they're my brothers.
Yeah.
But I mean, even friends that I wasn't close with in elementary, I'm now really close with them now, and it's kind of wild. It's wild, and I enjoy it. We have the Armenian ties, and it's just all part of this circle, this greater thing.
Are you a fan of private or public since you have
So
both
I like
experiences?
both. I think it's important that kids feel safe and secure at some
Hmm.
point. I do think public school adds a lot of value to real life.
Yes, it
So,
does.
when I first went to public school in 6th grade, I mean, I was surrounded by Armenian people. And I sat down in class and I was like in 6th grade and I was looking around, there's 60 people in this class and I don't know any of them. And there's Mexican people and Asian people and black people. And I was like, whoa, like this
Culture
is
shock?
culture shock because I knew my friends in my neighborhood, but it wasn't anything bad. It was just different. And it let me adapt in a way where I didn't know a lot about other cultures, where you're learning how to talk and maneuver and good people and bad people and groups that you want to hang out with and groups that you don't want, which is very real world like,
Yeah.
you put a bunch of people into a pool, there you have to learn that some people are bad and some people are good. And in private school, you may have that, but more or less it's the same 25 people in a class that are, getting old together.
I agree with you. They are exposed to a more realistic side
Yes, I mean there's a
in
dark side to that
public.
too. Don't get me wrong. I mean
Yeah.
a lot of people can be exposed into bad things,
And
and
they are.
you can
And
take
they
a
are.
bad turn. And I don't think it's the public school's fault. I think there's direction to it and guiding children because they're sponges. They're gonna absorb what's around them, and if you don't show them the right and wrong, you don't
Yes.
make them accountable for certain things, then you can easily take a dive into the wrong pool of friends
Yeah.
and it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I've seen a lot
Absolutely.
of crazy things.
Yeah, literally. I think that your home is the first school.
Exactly.
Your home is your guidance. They need to be able to come to you. The connection you have with your children, so essential.
Absolutely.
Do you believe that public schools are doing a good job nowadays keeping kids safe with everything that's going on? I mean, I don't want to dive into politics because I know,
So yeah,
but
it's
it
something
just a
I hate. I
opinion.
avoid politics greatly.
Absolutely, I
I
understand.
think the public school system does a lot of things to appeal to a lot of people, and
Yeah.
certain things I don't agree with, certain things I do agree with. Not diving too much into it, but like
No.
I think it's tough for them because they get attacked in every direction from everything. And when you have 3,000 kids in a school and 5 people are in uproar, they listen. And then 100 people are in uproar and they listen and they try to mitigate between all of the things. And it's a tough space, especially, schools getting attacked and students coming with guns and things like that.
Yeah.
It's you never know what's going to happen. So all of it's scary. Private schools have been attacked too.
Hmm.
The curriculum obviously is different in private schools,
Do you think they're
which
behind?
no, I think private school curriculum is a little bit more forward because they
Yes,
force the kids to all grow together. And when
that's right.
somebody cannot learn, here's the problem with some private schools: when kids cannot learn, they kind of just leave them behind,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yes.
where public schools will have systems for them to help them succeed in their own way. So it's I don't know which way is right, which way is wrong. I've tasted both. I loved going to private school for a short amount of time. I love my friends at private school. I love the variety of things that I was exposed to in public school. And I do enjoy just having that natural kind of street sense, if you will. I'm not saying you wouldn't get it in private school. I'm just saying like was able to go right out and understand how the workforce was, how people were, had different interactions with people. And
do you feel like public school is where you kind of decided I'm going to go into cooking?
no,
Culinary school?
not at all. Not at all. So through school, I wanted to be a professional snowboarder
What?
and a musician.
Wow.
So
that's such a such different
so I mean,
world.
Yes and no. So I did music for a very long time. And
music meaning?
I was a singer, pianist, guitarist.
A singer?
Yeah. So I was in a couple bands. We had like CDs across the nation. We were signed, all this stuff.
What was the band called?
The first one was called Signal. And we did electronic music.
Okay.
And we would play at like all the biggest parties, and we were constantly playing shows. And we would do like a live set where DJs were spinning their records. We would go with keyboards and do a live set. And then it transferred to like rock electronic music, where we were singing. We had a live drummer and guitarist, and then we played basically all the clubs in LA.
And you sang?
I sang and I did the production with my partner, who's now a big time music producer.
Did you write songs?
Yeah. So
that's beautiful.
Wrote songs. Yeah. And then eventually our drummer moved away, but like I couldn't do pro snowboarding because I was always doing music. So I wasn't able to move away to a mountain, which was my dream. And also I kept getting injured snowboarding. So I've had 10 surgeries, all from snowboarding.
Injury? Is that
ACLs,
risky?
torn ACLs, broken wrist twice, torn shoulder twice.
Oh, it's such a risky sport then.
I was doing big jumps. So I was jumping 65, 70-foot jumps. Every time I would film a video to go like pro, essentially, I'd get injured again. And maybe it was a sign. I still love snowboarding. It's near and dear to my heart. All my kids have been snowboarding since they were 3 years old. So we go up to the mountain 8 to 10 times a year. It's kind of like my sanctuary. It's where I kind of release.
Where do you go? What's like the
Mammoth, Big Bear. I've been all over. I've been to Canada. I've been pretty much everywhere snowboarding. I love it. But you know, music kind of stopped. We started like a rock band, and I was doing that, playing a bunch of bars, singing. It was a completely different format. And I was working in the family business. And
your family business?
My family business, my grandpa's business, which now my brother runs. It was a pharmaceutical label company. And I hated it. It was miserable. And all I could think about was, this is out of high school. All I could think about was when lunchtime was. And when I was getting out, and we'd have a show where, you know, it would be something about music and working, and it was back and forth. And one day I got sick. The music kind of stopped. Bands broke up. We were doing the rock thing, but it was a little more small time. And I got sick. I got like the flu. And I was laying down, and I saw a stupid Le Cordon Bleu commercial come on. You know, like they play them, you know, midday.
That's the culinary school.
The culinary school, yeah. So I saw it. I went to work. I said, Dede, I'm going to go to culinary school. And he said, over my dead body.
My God.
And the reason was we would be, you know, the family business. The reason why I hated it was we'd always go home. They're talking about the business. We'd be at dinner. They'd be talking about the business.
There's no
business,
boundary.
There's nothing. And I would go home and cook. And I always loved cooking. And I'd cook to decompress, and we'd have family dinner, and I'd be cooking the family dinners. And every Monday, the whole family would get together. We were like 15, 20 people. There's like cousins and uncles. Every Monday we did it, and I'd cook for everybody.
How old were you when you started cooking?
I started cooking at around 5.
With mom?
My mom. So I started
grandpa?
cooking, and I've said this story a bunch. It's basically because I wanted to play with knives. I started
That's
cooking
where you do
the knife flip.
So
I wanted to be Peter Pan. And Peter Pan flipped knives.
Yes.
So I wanted to flip knives. And I went into the kitchen. My mom's like, you're not touching a knife unless you're cooking. So I picked up the knife and I started cutting salads and cooking with her. And
Uh-huh.
kind of that led me into cooking. But I was always an eater. My nickname growing up was kol kol, which in Arabic is
That's
eat,
so
eat.
sweet. Eat,
So
eat?
eat, eat. Kol means eat in Arabic. And as
Wow.
a baby, my grandpa called me kol kol because I would just eat everything.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh my
naturally,
goodness.
I'd eat and I cooked, and it kind of was a perfect progression for me. And then I went to culinary school a little bit later than everyone else does. Like I was in my 20s, 22, I want to say something like that. And I loved it. I loved every part of it. It got me in the zone. I would come home, practice the things I learned, do more research. It put me in the zone to absorb so much of the cooking world
Mhm.
that like I thrived in culinary school. And it kind of brought a new light and a new aspect. And I went in thinking I wanted a restaurant, and I left thinking there are so many different avenues in the culinary world that I can approach and attack. And I
Wow.
kinda did that against my grandpa's will. And his big thing was like, "You want a family?" He goes, "Cooks don't make money." That's basically what he said. And I told him, like, I looked at him and I said, because my grandma had my support. My mom was like, "Yeah, let's do it." My brother he was a big support. My brother actually co-signed for me for the school because my grandpa wouldn't. Anyways, he looked at me and he's like, cooks don't make money. And I told him, you came to this country. When he was in Egypt, he was a doctor. They called him doctor. He owned a pharmacy
Mhm.
that he grew up in and became the operator. So they
Oh
called him
my goodness.
doctor. And then he fled to Toronto when Nasser came. So
Uh-huh.
the whole family had to up and leave. And I said, you went from being doctor to being a janitor in Toronto
Mhm.
to help your
How did that
family.
sit with his ego?
And I was terrible, obviously, for him. But I told him, I said, look, you came and then you moved your family from Toronto to LA with no money, really, and nothing. And I said, you created something out of nothing. I will prove to you that I will create something out of nothing. And within about a year or so leaving culinary school, I was already making more than I was making at the print shop. So I kind of just put myself into the right positions and excelled in everything that I did just because I love it. I love it so much. It's fun for me. And I was able to,
Yeah.
do everything from being on the line to like going in food styling for people. And I was able to work on TV shows. And right out of culinary school, I was working for Jamie Oliver, who's, if you don't know, a well-known English chef.
Mhm.
And I was an intern for his TV show. And then his team loved me so much, I started
Wow.
teaching cooking classes for him on a
What?
mobile teaching truck. So I was going
Wow.
around all of like LA, different downtown, a bunch of different places on this gigantic conformed big rig that had 7 cooking stations in it. And I was teaching cooking classes for Jamie Oliver to 7-year-olds all the way to 70-year-olds.
How was that experience for
Awesome.
you?
It was awesome. I mean, it was just everything kind of fit into what I wanted to do. I was able to, relay the information that I learned to people and kind of teach people healthy cooking and healthy eating, which is something I do stand by very much.
And why?
Because everything you put in your body
Mhm.
can affect your body
Mhm.
in either a positive way or a negative way.
So you are what you eat is
One
factual statement.
100% you are what you eat. And I mean, there's a lot of bad things that you can put into your body without even knowing. And
Mhm.
essentially, with the industrial revolution, food changed massively.
Massively.
And
Absolutely.
we went away from what is a real ingredient to what is a financially beneficial
Mhm.
ingredient.
Mhm.
So everything changed. How can we grow things in less time? How can we grow things with less things eating them? How can we capitalize on just even the most simple ingredients?
Is that happening only in our states or is
So it does happen all over the world, but to less effect.
Mhm.
Um, if you go to other countries and you see packaged foods, the amount of chemicals and things they put in it is a little bit more
Mhm.
in certain areas. But with all that being said, they don't eat as much packaged and processed foods as we do.
As we do, yes.
So it's not okay, but it's just not as bad. We're eating massive amounts of processed food daily, if not, every second of the day. Some people, I mean, these people that I was teaching on this trucks, they didn't come from good neighborhoods. And the whole idea was that we teach these kids that, yeah, going to Jack in the Box and getting a burger every single day might seem like it's cheaper, but if you prep just a thought process of like 3 days, your meals will become a quarter of the price. So we were able to make them sandwiches and burgers and things and break down costs for them, saying like, look, I know this burger is $1, but after all these ingredients, you can buy these 7 burgers and it actually costs you less than that per burger. And you're eating real food and it's not difficult to make. You can make it in like 5-10 minutes. And we made a bunch of things from like fresh pastas to grilled fish. I mean, it was just a matter of showing people. You got to give people the tools. And if they don't have them, they have nothing to work with.
How did you start being mindful about what you put in your body and the, facts about food and ingredients? Is that something that you always thought about?
No. So in high school, I would say junior high to high school, I ate anything I wanted. I mean, I would eat everything. I was eating fast food with my friends, but we were out skateboarding all the time. It didn't really show. When you're skateboarding for 3-4 hours a day and you go and you eat, some fast food, it's not bad. Later, I mean, it's bad, but different. Later, it started kind of showing later at high school senior year.
Showing?
I started gaining weight a little bit. And I always said, at what point does somebody draw the line? And it was something I always said to my friends and whatever, like, at what point does a 300-pound person, because at some point they didn't start 300 pounds. At what point does that person say, I don't care anymore, I'm just going to do it? And for me, that number was 200 pounds.
I don't care. I'm just gonna do it, or like I just give up.
I just give up.
Right?
Yeah, I don't care.
Like,
I'm just gonna eat.
Care.
I don't want to watch.
Good.
It feels good. It's fine. And I'm already 200 pounds. What's 250? What's 250? What's 300? It doesn't matter. And they'll always be conscious about, wanting to lose weight, but not take the effort. And for me, it was out of high school. I said that number was 200. And I was always like 180, 175. I'm 6'1", so it's not like crazy, but 200 hit. I remember stepping on the scale, it was 201. And I made a bet with my mom's boyfriend. And there was always diet food in the house. And I was like, this is just like crap, right?
Diet food, like salads and stuff?
Yeah, my mom it's the 90s, right? And it's like low fat cheeses and low fat this and low fat this. And as a kid, you're like, I don't want this crap. And like everyone's on some sort of new fad diet. So I made a bet with him, my mom's boyfriend. I said, I bet you I can get to 175 in 3 weeks. I'll lose 25 pounds.
In 3 weeks?
In 3 weeks. And he's like, you're on.
Okay.
So at that point, I took a deep dive into nutrition and started understanding what I was eating and started understanding how to change it. The first thing I completely cut out was sodas.
Oh.
I stopped drinking soda.
Do you drink soda now?
No.
Good.
I don't. And I drink a lot of sparkling water.
Me too.
Yes. So
Me too.
I drink a lot of sparkling water. I stopped eating. What did I stop eating? I stopped eating cold cuts and deli meats. I stopped eating mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise?
Mayonnaise was a huge one. Mayonnaise was a massive one. And that was one thing that I stopped eating. Then I grew a disgust for. And then I started hating it. And then I kind of grew this allergy almost. Like
to mayonnaise?
To mayonnaise. Yeah, it was like a mental allergy. And the reason why is because let's say you have a sandwich and then you put mayonnaise on it. You're adding about 150 calories, depending on how much you put on. So it bothered me, right? And then I said, like, let's just cut this out. And I started cutting it half and half with yogurt because I liked it at the time.
Yeah.
And then eventually I cut it out. And then it started grossing me out. And eventually it turned into this thing, like if I ate it, I would like toss it. Like I had a serious problem with it. but in culinary school, I was able to make it.
Yeah.
And just by doing those simple things at the time, I was able to cut down to 178 pounds in 3
My
weeks.
goodness. Just being mindful and educated on
Just being mindful and educated on what we were
what
eating.
we're eating.
S-
So, yes, please.
Yeah, no, it was
No, please.
that just told me that most people that are trying to eat healthy and do something healthy are essentially not doing it with the right steps, and everyone reverts back. But if you know what's in your food, it's pretty simple to cut back.
Mm-hmm. Just a question. Maybe this is off topic from, what you're used to, but do you feel that obesity is related to mental health?
In in a way, I'd say yes. And obviously, there's specific cases with everybody. And I'm not saying that everyone is a whole and people cannot
Yeah.
change. Obviously, people have health issues that it makes it more difficult. But I feel like a lot of people make a lot of excuses for this. And they'll say, like, I have this and this and this, and that's why I'm gaining so much weight.
Mm-hmm.
My take on it, and I could be wrong, and I probably get a lot of crap for this, but like, if all people are made the same, right, and people all have mental health issues and intestinal issues and all this stuff, how come are there children like in African countries that are starving and they just they're not obese, they're not
Yes.
gigantic. We're all cut from the same cord essentially, right? So
Yes.
they have mental health issues, we do. They have thyroid issues, we do. They have all
But
these
they're
things.
not
They're not obese
obese.
because there's a lack of food. And at the
Yes.
end of the day, the unfortunate part is it's calories in versus
Yes.
calories out. And
Yes.
it's as basic as that. And what happens with people is they don't realize what they're putting in their body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I didn't have a meal today, but they went by the fridge 6 times and they picked something. And they're like, oh, well, that doesn't count. Or they don't think about it.
I also feel like, every time you drive somewhere, there's like 15 to 20 different like fast food stops.
Yes.
That just triggers something in your head too.
Yes.
I mean, like you look at every country and the data on this, I read it months ago, that we're the fattest country.
We are.
It's horrifying.
So we don't
to
walk.
read.
We don't. The
No.
foods we eat. It's linked to heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, all of
Heart
these
attacks
things.
left
Heart
and
attacks.
right, arthritis issues.
Everything that we do, everything that we eat, and the lack of exercise that we do
Lack of exercise, yes.
is
The movement is.
it's insane. And if you look at the percentage of people now, especially in LA, we drive everywhere.
Yes.
If you go up to like San Francisco or New York, most people don't have cars because everyone just cabs or
Yes.
walks, but like you'll be like, hey, let's go 2 blocks down that way and grab something.
Mhm.
We're here at the Target parking lot and the grocery store is across like right there, like 300 yards, and you'll get in your car, you'll
Yes.
pull out and you'll go to that spot, park there. The ice cream shop could be in the same shopping center. And then you get in your car, drive to the ice cream shop, and everybody does this. And I mean, I fall victim to it too. You're just used to it.
Correct.
But if I was in New York, we'll be like, oh, it's 16 blocks up the road. Let's just go. And we'll go to a bodega there and then like pick up something and come back. And it's kind of crazy. Here, we're just programmed to get into our car instead of walking places. Those little walks, here's a fun fact. Walking and running the same distance burns the same amount of calories. So if you run 5 miles and you walk 5 miles, you will have burned the exact same amount of calories.
So then what is it? Why are we so unmotivated to eat healthy, to be mindful, to exercise? What do you think from your perspective as somebody who's pretty well seasoned in this field?
I think people, the access to food and what we can have and the need to satisfy ourselves is so strong that people, here's the thing. I one of my buddies a long time ago did the what was the fast called? The lemonade diet. It was the master cleanse. He did the master cleanse. And that's essentially where you drink lemon water with cayenne and grade B maple syrup and it feeds you. He asked me to do it. I didn't want to do it. Supposedly. So I didn't do it. And I don't know how it really works. I read a lot about it and I don't advocate for it. I chose not to do it. But The one thing he did tell me is he had so much more time on his hands when he wasn't thinking about food.
Snacks.
Anything.
Yes.
So he wasn't having meals, like he wasn't going to dinner, he wasn't thinking about going to lunch, he wasn't thinking about breakfast. And I think a lot of the times people are eating out of boredom. They're
This is true.
overeating out of boredom.
We're snacking constantly. Like if you think about this, every time a child says, "Mom, I want a snack.
Yeah.
Mom, I want a snack." And snack is not carrots with hummus. It's usually
Yes.
chips and candy.
Exactly. It's snacks that comes in a package that you have to open up. And I think it's a lot of it is you're at work, you get bored, you're looking forward to what's at lunch, you come home, you sit down, you don't have much else to do or you're not choosing to do anything. Going to the gym seems like a daunting task, but they say what's the hardest part about going to the gym is actually getting up.
Yes.
Taking that first actual step. It's not getting there because once you get there, it's fine. It's actually putting on your gym clothes and walking out the door. And once you do that, you're like, hey, I'm already here. I can get it done. It's not, you're never like in a workout like, oh, I'd rather have a pizza and sit in front of the TV right now.
I think cooking is the same.
Cooking is,
It takes a lot of motivation
to start.
Yes.
I can see how that would be for certain people. I don't have that.
No,
but
because it's in your blood. Like it's a DNA for you. But for moms, for dads, you know, like just coming home from work and thinking about, I mean, look, Aretha, I think it was Aretha Franklin. They were doing an interview on her a while ago. And they're like, what is the most hardest task for you? And she just took a pause and she's like, oh, the hardest thing for me in the world is trying to figure out what I'm going to cook.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
So it's hard. Like I could say for myself too, I love to cook and I want to cook healthy meals for my children and my husband. But how do you find the motivation to cook and then clean the dishes afterwards? I think that's where...
So I do get a lot of help with cleaning from my wife. She's like my...
You cook, she cleans?
Kind of. We clean together. I mean, we work it together.
That's wonderful, the teamwork.
We do teamwork. She cooks as well, but I cook more often than not. And it's not like I just dump everything into the sink and just leave. You know, we're working at it. And
is it messy? Does it get messy? Because yours is fancy cooking.
She might think it gets messy. I don't think it gets messy. I do. I am a little bit all over the place and I move quickly. Because everything for me is a time crunch. So I'm working, I don't work at like grandma's cooking pace. And I think that's a lot of that reason is not a knock on grandma's cooking. It's just that grandma's had all this time, 2, 3, 4 hours of sitting at home to cook and move slowly and make these dishes that we grew up with. And it made us think that these dishes take a lot of time. So for me, one of the big things was when I started cooking Armenian and Middle Eastern food and doing these fun videos, I decided to put this long recipe that I always thought was 3, 4 hours.
Which one particularly?
All of them. Wow. All of them. Like I would say the longest recipe that it takes to do is maybe like wrapping dolma or manta.
Yeah.
But making stuffed dolma like bell peppers and stuff like that.
Yeah, summer dolma.
Summer dolma is fast and easy. A lot of the dishes that we grew up thinking take hours. And harissa is one I did with Araxia on
she
Good
told
Day LA.
Me.
And she was like, I don't understand. This was supposed to cook for like 4, 5, 6 hours.
How did you do it?
Because it doesn't take that long.
How long did it take?
You can do the whole thing in about an hour.
How? I just stand there and stir it.
So it's
like 45 minutes.
There is the cooking procedure, then there's the stirring procedure, but that stirring doesn't necessarily have to happen until the very end. And it's the last couple minutes where you're just whipping it up. So once the grains are cooked,
oh my goodness,
you beat it and it happens. And my whole process was, I know how things work in a kitchen. I know the chefy techniques. I know processes of cooking grains and things like that. So it doesn't make sense for these things to take 3, 4, 5 hours.
But that's why we're not cooking.
Exactly. So I was able to make these dishes, and I do them in 30 seconds because there's edits. But nothing I cook really takes more than an hour tops. So it's these dishes that people were like, and that's like pushing manta or rolling dolma. But other than that, most dishes you can do quickly, and people get scared. They're intimidated. I try to show people that you can do a lot of simple things very quickly. One pan dishes. I made a dish with my 2 girls the other day, 1 pan chicken and rice. And we did it together. Somebody at my gym actually asked, she's like, I love your stuff. My son loves it, but I would love for you to make something that he can make. So something simple. So I was like, this is perfect. I'll go home and make chicken and rice with my daughters. And in the video, literally, I have them rise up from the back of the counter. Like, it's so easy, a kid can do it. And we made what looks like a very detailed and intricate dish. It was in one pan. It had the vermicelli and the rice. We seared off chicken thighs and put it all in the oven, and we all ate. And it really didn't take longer. I mean, in the oven, the downtime took 25 minutes. But besides that, the whole dish was done in less than an hour.
Wow.
In one pan with one pan cleanup.
So I that's beautiful. So I wonder, like, how can we help the men and women in the community be motivated to do this more often? I mean, you make it look so beautifully easy. I mean, I made the garlic sauce that you made, by the way. It was so to be honest, it wasn't hard at all.
It's super easy.
It's super easy. And I was like, we're buying this from Zanku chicken and stuff, and we don't even know what they're putting in it. Not just Zanku chicken, but all the other sauce everywhere. I don't know what they're using. I can buy California garlic.
Exactly.
Peel it because it's not.
You know where it's coming from?
I know where it's coming from, and I do my research on food. I know that California garlic is healthier. It's one of the best.
It's some of the best.
So I made it, and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Ara's coming on the
That's
show.
It. I love it.
That's it.
I mean, a lot of things are like that. It's once you know how to do it and somebody shows you an easy way. I feel like
you do a really good job doing that.
I work at it. I work at simplifying things so that everyone can do it. And there are a lot of recipes that I learned from people, and a lot of Armenian moms and things like that will tell me a lot of different detailed parts of recipes, and I try to figure out a way to simplify it to where maybe this detail didn't matter that much, and maybe there's a different technique we can do, and maybe half the people aren't going to know if it's missing or not. And I get in trouble sometimes. I get a lot of moms and things like that. Trouble is in in the comment section. People are like, "That's not how you do it. That's not this." And there's
the gaudiness,
exactly,
as we call them, the Karens.
A lot of people. I mean, I did a ponchik, the video, and I made a custard. And in the custard, I didn't put egg. And the reason why I didn't put egg in the custard is because most people are gonna break it. And so I did a version where it was just.
What do you mean by most people are going to break it?
So the real way to make a custard is you slow cook, you heat up milk or cream, and then you take like a room temperature egg and you whisk it enough with some sugar, and then you temper the cream into the egg. So the milk or the cream cannot be too hot. Then you got to slowly add it into the egg while you're whisking it.
Okay.
And then you put it all back in the pot, and then you bring it back up to temperature.
Wow, okay.
Now, in that process, if you do any of it wrong, the eggs will cook, and you'll have scrambled eggs inside of your custard. Goodness. So instead of that whole headache and process, and yes, a custard with eggs is way better. I get it. But instead of doing that, I just put cream and sugar with a little bit of vanilla and cornstarch, and brought it up to temperature. And if you make it boil or you do whatever, it's going to be fine. And it thickened up into a custard and stuffed it into an easy ponchik. And guess what? If I did it with egg, most people would be scared to do it. And I did it this way, most people are going to try it.
I understand why. You tried to make it simple for people, not to discourage them.
Exactly. I don't want to discourage me. And I know we're talking about health food and I'm talking about a ponchik, but idea is...
I'm hungry for a ponchik.
A ponchik is an Armenian donut, for those who don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The point is, I do things to simplify them, to get people into the kitchen. And I try to make it so it's not scary. And I do easy ways and hacks and things that you can essentially shorten your bandwidth so that we don't lose our customary traditions and our heritage recipes and the recipes that are, maybe it's not our heritage, but it's recipes our grandparents made for us that they adopted from other places, so that we don't lose these things and they're just gone with the wayside. Why not do a version of it, an adaptation of it, so that you can still enjoy it? You can still enjoy grandma's cooking without being scared to get in the kitchen.
Or too overwhelmed. Tired.
Yes. It should be easy. Cooking should be fun. Cooking should be easy. It comes off in the food. It's delicious. And you can sit, there's nothing like sitting around a table with your family, eating food that you prepared.
When your kids come home from school, do they go, "Oh, this smells so good, Dad, Mom, what did you cook?"
They definitely
How
do
does
that.
that feel?
You know, it's
Just
always
hearing
a
him
good
say that.
sign. I know
Yeah.
what my kids like to eat, and I know what they're
Are
gonna
they
say.
picky eaters?
They are selective eaters, and I don't want to say picky because my kids eat sushi, everything from sushi. They eat, I mean, they've eaten foie gras, they eat like
From
A5
you
Wagyu.
preparing?
They
Wow.
eat, one of my daughters loves caviar and loves, the salmon caviar. I
My
mean,
son
they
too.
eat things that 90% of kids won't eat,
Mhm.
but then they'll pick a random thing that they just don't want to eat.
Yeah.
Like bell pepper dolma, because they can't eat cooked bell pepper for some reason, which makes absolutely no sense.
But I can have caviar.
But yeah,
I
they can
love
eat
that.
caviar, but
That's
bell
so
pepper dolma is
interesting.
like off the table. So like that's why I say
Yeah.
they're selective eaters. Um, we're working at getting them to just. I've always said you can try anything. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it.
Yeah.
But you have to taste it.
Yes.
And it takes somebody 10 times of tasting something
Yes.
before they actually know they like it.
Really?
And your taste buds constantly evolve, but also,
That's an interesting.
here's a fun one. Eggplant. A lot of people don't like it. I love it.
Me too.
Love eggplant.
So
A
delicious.
lot of people hate it. So if I had an eggplant recipe and you had an eggplant recipe and 5 other people in this room, we all gave them the same eggplant recipe, do you think each one would taste the same?
Absolutely not.
It would absolutely not. So
Taste buds are different for everyone, right?
your seasoning, your thing, even though the recipe's identical, how you cook it, how long you cook it, did you overcook it, did you season it at the right time? All of these things are variables. Now, tasting eggplant for the first time, saying, I hate eggplant now, forever, how can you say that when you had eggplant from one person that cooked it? From one crop of eggplants, by the way. Now, if you taste it 10 different times from 10 different people and 10 different recipes, you can now make a pretty good judgment on like, hey, I probably don't like eggplant. But I've had a lot of people that said, hard no, I do not like this. And then I make it for them. And they're like, well, I do not like it unless you make it for me.
Wow. And I think this is why most pediatricians tell parents that don't give up. If your child doesn't like avocados or
Yes.
bananas, you need to keep trying and trying until they get used to it.
Absolutely.
So I like that. Do you think that clean eating is important? I mean, there's this thing right now of organic and non-organic.
So I think if you can eat organic, you should. I know that it's more expensive, and I don't tell everybody to force them into. Look, if you can't eat organic produce and vegetables, don't say I'm going to get Cheetos. Like eat the non-organic ones, right? It's okay. It's better to have a non-organic something than to not eat it at all.
Why do you think organic is important?
I think it's important because the rest of the world is cooking and making things organically. It's been organic for a long time. The problem is that we've got away from it. It's like saying, hey, now we're all going to eat real meat again. You know what I mean?
God. Yeah, most fast food places right now are producing, I don't know what it is. It's not even meat.
Now with 100% beef was a big slogan we heard a couple years ago. What was it before? I know what it was. I don't like to tell people what it was, but
can you please tell us?
So there was a thing called pink slime that
Pink slime?
Yeah, pink slime was
Sounds horrifying.
It's mortifying actually. It's what they use to fluff ground beef. And
I've seen that.
the way they did it was they would take the carcass of the beef and they'd spin it, and whatever kind of like whipped off of it onto the walls of the meat processing plant, they'd scrape off. Now they had to kind of cure that or make it edible, so because it was tainted. So what they do is they would add ammonia to it. And the way they found out how much ammonia to add was they just tested it on people. Like, should we add this?
Tested it on people.
Yeah, so they would give somebody this meat and they go, did you get sick? No, they didn't get sick. Okay, it's good. Did you get sick? No, you didn't get sick. Oh, you got sick. Okay, we'll tone it down a little bit. Can you taste it? Okay, we'll tone it down a little bit. And then they figured out what this perfect ratio of pink slime was. And then they would take that pink slime and they would put it into the ground beef. so that now your half pound of ground beef would turn into 1 pound, and then they would sell that. So you're getting it for an eighth of the price. More recently, they've stopped with the pink slime a lot of places,
Wow.
but
I can say I'm never speechless,
it's
but
it's
this
it's
is,
pretty gnarly.
and people actually put these in their bodies. I mean, I'm sure things like this cause cancer and all
Yeah,
kinds of diseases and
absolutely. So we don't know what half the stuff is that we're eating, and
mm.
what's crazy is like the FDA and things like that have regulations on
But how
stuff.
truthful is the
A,
FDA?
a
I don't
lot of
know,
it changes, so it's
right?
ever growing. Science is ever growing. So let's say we can't use this chemical because it's going to cause cancer and it's bad. But guess what? There's this other chemical that we can put in it, and we can put it in, it'll be fine. But we don't have enough research and detail on that other chemical until 10 years down the line when they're like, hey, maybe this one's bad too. So it just keeps happening. So when I say eating organic is better, it's food in its natural source. It's even the soils that we buy have things in them.
Yes.
Miracle Grow and all this stuff. It's fine. It's the better alternative.
Ara, when I heard how garlic was actually produced, that word mortified, I jumped immediately to California garlic. I'm like, I'm never buying regular garlic ever in my lifetime again.
You know,
It's disgusting.
finding the food processes of things. If you dive deeply enough into anything, you're gonna find some pretty horrible
Yes,
truths.
and there's a documentary on that on Netflix. Actually,
Yeah,
I think it was not banned. I think it was,
banned. I haven't seen that
but
one,
years
but
ago, it was this man, and he was on a hunt to find, like how corrupt our food is,
yeah,
and he just talked about it. He had a documentary, but it's just nowhere to be found. So,
I mean,
which
it's
is
honestly a
unfortunate.
lot of food food processes can be very difficult to kind of like pinpoint. And I mean, there's some pretty crazy stuff. When I was working with Jamie Oliver, I was exposed to the fact that they used to put like beaver tail inside cookie dough ice cream because
What does that
apparently
do?
beaver tail kind of tastes like vanilla or cookie dough. So they used to use that instead of actually putting the real stuff
Vanilla.
in it. Yeah. It's beaver
How
tail or
did you?
beaver.
I mean, what's the craziest thing that you were exposed to that changed your eating habits? You're like,
um, so a lot of dairy processes kind of scared me for a long time.
uh huh.
I don't drink a lot of milk at all. Uh,
We don't either.
I I have a whole thing with milk.
What is it? Tell us.
So
Educate us.
so milk itself, eh, and I get a lot of gripe for this from like Middle Easterns and
Yes.
Armenians
But
and
milk is
Russians,
not
but
the same as it
so
is
it's
in the
not the
Middle
same.
East. And no, let's
Exactly, and
just put that out there first.
that's the point. That's the difference.
Hmm.
So a lot of like just milk, and I eat cheese. I love cheese. Okay, I love my Karun cheese. I'm a Karun ambassador. So
I love
Karun's
that.
cheese is awesome. Just
Yes.
saying that. They make their cheese differently. Uh,
Karun?
yes.
Oh, I've
So
never.
Karun cheese, the string cheese, Armenian string
Oh my
cheese.
God, yes. That's right, with
Yes.
the cow on the
Yes.
label.
Yes. I love my Karun cheese. A lot of the milk and dairy companies out there, when they're making milk, there's the pasteurization process, how
Uh-huh.
they basically nuke it and then they separate the milk and they reconstitute it.
Hmm.
And all of these different heavy processes, like the dairy cows that come out are like they're pumping like 20 gallons of milk where a regular dairy cow should be pumping around 7 gallons of milk a
Yes.
day. There's like a bunch of different hormones
Hormones
and things
added.
like that. So there's bad milk out there. And those
Altadena milks.
those milks are not necessarily good for you. And I tell people like if you're drinking a jug of milk, drink it because you like it. Don't drink it because you think you're doing your body good.
Yes. Well, that's the information that was put out there for a long
It's
time.
the same. It happened with eggs. For
Uh-huh.
years, they were like, eggs are bad, eggs are bad. And then they were like, oh, eggs are good. Eggs are good. And there's all these different like industrial farmers and things like that that put money into stuff like this.
Hmm.
And they essentially dictate what the population is going to eat.
All right. What what brands of like milk and eggs do you suggest people to purchase? I mean, you're in this, you're well seasoned. I can tell like what's good, like especially for moms that are making foods at home instead of buying
So
baby food.
yeah, I mean, eggs. I love. There's a company called Good Eggs, and I'm not sponsored by them. Good Eggs. They actually do make good eggs. I
Good
have,
eggs? Where do they
yeah.
sell these?
They sell them at most.
Like Whole Foods and
Yeah, I
things like
believe they
that?
have them. I have my own chickens.
You have
I do
chickens?
have
They
chickens,
have of
and
course they lay eggs.
yes, I haven't bought eggs in, I don't know, a year and a half
And
since
I'm
I
sure
got
you
them.
feed them all.
I feed them everything that we eat. So they
Yeah.
eat organic matter. The things that we eat. I don't eat all organic. I try to,
What
but
don't you eat that's not organic?
a lot of the fruits. So when I go buy fruits and vegetables, if I do find organic ones, I will eat them. If there's something that I have to get in a pinch, it's okay. I try to shop at like decent grocery stores
Mhm.
as well.
It could get so
Um,
expensive, Ara.
it does, and I think
I
that's the
feel for
daunting
moms and dads.
task. It's
Yes.
like I mean, I've seen broccoli that's more expensive than meat. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because we're paying a higher price to do something that should be more simple. In the old country, people ate fruits and vegetables because meat was expensive. And
Yes.
now meat is less expensive than
The
fruits and
fruits and
vegetables.
vegetables.
It's crazy. And it's all just how things work.
Mm.
It's pretty insane to me. I mean, milk wise, I know my kids drink any of the organic milks are good. I like milks that have cream on the top. So there's a Strauss
Yeah,
brand.
that's what the red one.
Yeah, and it
We
comes in a
get that one.
glass jar.
That's the one I buy for the kids. It's
Yes,
really
it's
my husband loves
the
that
little
the
cream on the
cream.
top.
He puts it on bread.
It's like Eshte kind of.
Ish. Yeah. That's really good. And then there's this other brand. I keep forgetting. It's like a green.
The
There's the butter. They make butter too.
oh, the like the Irish butter, the ones that they make. I think I know what you're talking
You know
about.
which it's a whole.
I
It's
forget
like
the
a
name. Yes,
cow.
yeah,
Obviously,
yes.
it's a milk carton. But then they make the sour cream of that. They
Yes,
make that's
yes,
a
yes.
really clean
I forget
brand
the name.
too.
I know what you're
I
talking about.
know.
But honestly, if you look at the
Mm,
label, look at like if it says organic, if you look for something that looks like it's good for you, and then read the labels. The labels,
ingredients, right? They matter.
ingredients, the labels, they're key. It really is. It's wild how much stuff is in our food. And when you eat something that's like packed with sugar to like mask certain things, it's wild. People will
Yes.
be like, oh, this is fat free, but the fat free one has more sugar in it than the full fat one.
You know what's daunting to me? That they put I think it's called carrageenan.
Yeah.
Is that what it
Yeah.
they put carrageenan in smetan.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Armenian markets sell it. And I'm like, this is horrifying. And well, not me, but people actually buy that and give it to their children for breakfast.
It's
That's number one cancer causing ingredients. I mean, how do you, but
it's
it's
pretty
knowledge. What
wild.
can
I
you do?
mean, a lot of stuff gets approved because they say it's good for you or in small doses it is. And it really depends. Now, eating something that's bad for you isn't the end of the world, but eating it daily
Really?
is the
Yes.
bad thing. I
Yes.
mean, you're allowed to venture out. You're allowed to have things that are bad for you. If 80% of the food you put in your body is good and 20% is bad, that's a really good ratio. And living in LA, living in the States, it's pretty tough to eat 80% good or,
True.
basic. You can be 100% and that's wonderful. But most people giving them that 100%, what they do is they're 100% for a while. And then as soon as they don't feel like it, they dump off and they're 0%. Now, and it just doesn't work. You need to be able to sustain something. Fad diets don't work because you do a fad diet and I'm dieting, I'm dieting, I'm dieting. And then, oh, I broke my diet today. I had like chili cheese fries. Oh, I'm going to pick it back up on Monday. You're like, but dude, it's Thursday. Like you're giving yourself 4 days. Like I got to start on Monday. Monday is like the day everybody starts their diet.
It's always like that.
Why not just do it
Yeah.
anytime? And if you mess up, that's fine too. It's truly fine. I designed a diet back in the day. I
Really?
did. My friends and I designed a diet and I had given it to a ton of people, and a bunch of people lost weight doing it.
What diet was it?
So we called it the boom diet.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why we called it is when we made something that was boom, we would go boom. And it was just like and the whole premise, I have a whole sheet that's written up on it. And the whole premise of the diet was shop on the outsides of the grocery store. If you don't recognize the name in the ingredients list, you cannot eat it. And it has a eat all the time, few and far between, and never section. And within that section, it pretty much covers, and it's a one-page thing, it covers almost all foods. And the reason why we did the diet, and it was based off of paleo. So we call it maybe paleo-esque because there are built-in cheats. And the idea behind the diet was that since there are built-in cheats, if you follow the cheats and you're in the few and far between guideline, you don't have to say, oh, I messed up my diet. We'll start again Monday. So it had built-in sections, and there was some parts that were you cannot eat and you shouldn't eat. But within those frames, there's so much you can eat, and there was no limitation. So you can eat as much as you want of it. And everybody that did it, within the first 3-4 days, the first 3 days were always hard. But after that, they started sleeping better. They started going to the bathroom better. They started shedding pounds. I gave it to my buddy that was part of this gym, and he gave it to 4 of his friends, and they wanted to personally message me. They sent me, this is before social media was crazy. They sent me a text like, you have no idea, I've lost 60 pounds because of this. I mean, it just, essentially all I did was show people, stop buying from the center of the grocery store. Buy from the borders of the grocery store.
Which are the
fresh fruits, fresh meats, veggies, your dairies all on the outside. If you want to eat dairy, you want to eat all of the stuff that you should probably be eating is on the outside. And all the stuff you probably shouldn't be eating is inside, because the stuff that's inside doesn't need to be refrigerated. Be aware of any sort of dairy-looking product that has a 3-year shelf stable
like
label.
Those milks they have on the inside.
Insane. It's insane. I mean, cheeses, Velveeta cheese.
Yes.
It'll survive a apocalypse.
Is that really cheese?
It's not. It's actually petroleum. It's actually gasoline. This
is a short. You just
honestly.
Wow, I got goosebumps. But there's people who love it.
You know what? Look,
they love it.
Look, my wife grew up on the Velveeta mac and cheese, and my kids have had it. They love it. I have had it too. I'm not gonna say I haven't.
We all have.
Everyone has.
That's probably before you know.
But it's knowing. Part of it is knowing, and knowing something and doing it. We're all gonna mess up. Where we're given the carrot is dangling in front of us, and people are going to mess up. You can't expect to be surrounded by all of this stuff and not maybe try it or taste it or see, right? You can choose not to have it anymore, but you try it, and knowing it is half the battle.
How can we motivate as people who are knowledgeable? Okay, what is our responsibility? To spread our knowledge.
Exactly.
How can we help people who are buying all these processed food and they're not aware? Like, I know a lot of moms, they buy those Gerber foods.
Yeah, and it's tough. There's a lot of stuff in them. Excuse me. There is a lot of stuff in them.
You just gasped for air. It's scary.
That's
how
so
scary.
Easy. It's so easy to make your own baby food. It's funny. So easy. I mean,
I make my baby food. It takes like 10 minutes.
It literally is putting some vegetables into a pot and mashing it up.
Throw a little bit of butter, salt, turmeric.
So easy. I mean, really isn't. And you know what? It's an eighth of the price. You can buy a bag of carrots and blend them up in a pot with some water, and you will have so many jars of baby carrot food. Yes. It's crazy.
You know what's funny? We have a poodle, and he was having some stomach issues. And the doctors, we took him to the doctor. The doctor's like, oh, just don't give him dog food anymore. Give him Gerber.
Gerber? Oh, perfect. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. There's
Baby food to a dog.
even people now they're feeding they're realizing the dog food isn't good for their dogs anymore, and
That's
there's like
right.
healthy dog food you can buy.
Yeah, I guess
And
Gerber's the healthier
I,
version, apparently. I don't know.
I
But
don't. It's
I don't know how I can ever look at that food the same way ever again. But again, it's about knowledge. People or Earth's best. I mean, it's the same thing, you
you
guys.
know what it is the hard
No judgment,
truth
though.
is that people don't want to know. That's the hard truth.
Yes, I've had that when you're like,
People don't want to know. I mean, I tell
True.
people all the time, and they'll go, "Just don't tell me. I just don't want to
That's
know."
right. I get the same
They'll
thing.
say literally.
Yeah.
They'll say
You're
the words.
too organic. You're the organic tree.
I just
Get
don't
away.
want to know.
Yeah,
Like you're
you
bothering
get shut
me,
down.
and it's like
Correct.
I don't want to change. I'm not trying to force anybody to change anything. I'm trying to give you the tools. You do what you want with the tools. It's not me. It's not my job. It's not my job to conform you. It's my job to raise my kids, and I give my kids a vast wealth of knowledge, and even they don't listen. I mean, they're
I know.
kids. It's look, at the end of the day, you can tell your kid whatever they want, and then if you
Yeah.
hold them back, here's the thing that I know. Let's say you hold your kid back from everything. The second you give them a little inch or they turn 13, 14, 15, and you let them out into the real world, what's the first thing that they're going to go after?
Hot Cheetos.
All the stuff that they can't eat.
Hot Cheetos.
So yeah, and it sucks, and I don't my kids, they don't have hot Cheetos every day.
Yeah,
But
of course. But they do sometimes.
And
Mine too.
you
Mine
have
too.
to learn to give and take with it.
Yeah.
And it's you'll have like a caged animal at that point.
True.
And at some point you're not going to be standing by your kid when they're 25 and their whole entire life their mom was like, "You cannot eat this." And guess what? It's right in front of them. They're like, "I wonder what this was. Oh, this is magical. I need this in my life."
Did you read about that child a few weeks ago? He was hospitalized, pretty healthy eating family. But the mom's like, okay, you can have a cheat day. And she allowed him to eat, what is that chips that all the kids love?
Takis?
Takis?
Yeah.
The purple bag, is
Yeah,
that what
yeah.
it's called?
Yeah.
It burned I think he burned a hole in his intestines.
Aw,
And he just,
You got an ulcer.
yeah,
Crazy.
he ate like a whole bag. And he just couldn't stop vomiting. And it was so heartbreaking to see that.
So here's the thing. And then the reason why I said like 80-20. If I eat right now a thing of Velveeta, it's going to go right through me because my body is like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to use it.
It's going to reject it.
It gets out of there. Now, if you keep feeding your body Velveeta or some other crap, whatever, your body's going to go, hey, I need to figure out what to do with this because this is the only thing that I'm getting. Your body's smart and it tries to utilize what it can. So if you eat healthy food, natural foods, real foods daily, I mean, meat, vegetables, if you want to eat grains, if you eat natural foods daily, the second you put something bad inside of you, your body goes abort mission. And it happens quick.
Thank God for that, though.
It's your body will learn it, but if you eat bad foods all the time, your body is like, now I need to figure out what to do with these bad foods so that I can survive and live. And let's store it. And it says, let's store it. And your body just starts storing everything.
Wow.
I'm gonna figure out what to do with this later. And it just stores it in places.
That's crazy. Ara, what advice do you give for parents who genuinely want to cook dinner for their families, but they don't find the time and the motivation to do anything that's helpful?
Follow my page. No.
That's a given. I hope you guys are by
the wealth of information that we have nowadays, it's limitless. So if you go and you're like, I have 15 minutes to make a meal, or I don't want to do anything, literally Google 20-minute meal for my family. You'll find 5,000 recipes. It takes 1 second to make a little effort, a little gesture. Be like, oh, I don't want to do it. I need something for 20 minutes. Well, you can actually find whole books written on 15-minute meals, 15-minute healthy meals. I try to do things on my page that are a little more simple and quick and easy and fast. And yeah,
it's so helpful.
I think the video aspect and seeing it, even though I do it quickly and I have a lot of edits,
it makes you
you can,
calmer.
yes,
You're like, oh, he made this garlic sauce in like
exactly.
3 minutes.
And then I write in the caption, I write the recipe and I write what you need to do. And I kind of show that like you can follow this along. And then you can also see the video, and the video happens quick. But if you just read the text, you can see the steps, you can see the outcome. And it's honestly, there really isn't anything that should take you that long. Now, if you're in the kitchen for 2.5, 3 hours and you're making chicken and rice, it's not the recipe that's the problem. it's your effort.
It's the cleaning
And
up
the
part.
cleaning up part, look,
I'm going to be honest with you.
cleaning is
Lots of moms and
so
dads
the cleanup
dread
aspect,
that.
the cleanup aspect can get a little daunting.
Mhm.
Now, doing things where you kind of clean as you go or kind of limit the catastrophe that's made, cook, chop up your things next to a trash bin or put a bowl. What I do is I put a bowl on the counter
Yes.
and I put everything into that bowl. You limit the amount of walking back and forth. The pots and pans, you really, when you're making a meal, it's 1 or 2 pots.
Or maybe you can model that. I think that, I mean, you obviously it's the cooking is phenomenal and it
Yeah.
makes it simple, but maybe like modeling that, like, look, this is how I do it. This is to kind of minimize, because it's anxiety provoking.
Yes.
I feel like cooking is an anxiety provoking activity for lots of parents now, and they need that guidance. Like, it doesn't have to be scary, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
we all want to cook healthy meals,
Yeah,
but
of course.
who's gonna clean up after? We're all exhausted.
Of
I
course.
promise you, that's to me, that's like a big issue.
I think when I explain like cooking to a lot of people and how to cut things up and chop things up and things like that, they get excited. I think maybe what you said, to your point, is modeling how I move in the kitchen
Yeah.
might help.
Exactly. To lessen the
To
anxiety.
minimize,
Like, oh, I
yeah.
can cut this here.
I mean, there's simple things that I still get blown away, like putting a towel under your cutting board doesn't make it slide is so logical to me. But when I tell people that, they're like, wow.
Wait,
Like,
does?
yeah.
Wow.
So if you take like
wow.
see a lot of people like, let's say you take your cutting board, you put it on the counter. Most people have, granite counters, whatever, and like you put it down and it starts sliding, and now your knife is sliding, everything's. If you take a paper towel, you put it under the cutting board, it no longer moves. Now you have a stable ground, which
Wow.
every little trick, a trash can in front of you, or a little trash bin in front of you, every little thing when you're moving
It's
around
those
the kitchen,
tricks that we need
it
to
helps.
see.
And
It does.
maybe I'll do a video on it. I'll do a video.
I think that's really special, and it's helpful. Like, oh, like he cuts the fruits here.
Yes.
Oh, this is where he puts all,
Yeah.
the peeling. And
Yeah.
because what do we do when we peel? On the counter.
On the counter
You
or
know?
in the trash can,
the
you're
trash-
standing in in culinary school, peeling in the
Yeah.
trash cans like the biggest no-no
No,
on
no.
the planet. Because what happens is somebody drops the carrot or whatever
Yeah.
in there, and they go, meh,
I'll just
I'll
wash it. It's okay. No, but for real, I think those tricks would really, really motivate. Because I always think, I'm like, what can we do to motivate people? I mean, there's such a lack of motivation
Yeah.
with people. I mean, you see it. Everyone's sad. Everyone has anxiety. Everyone's struggling with something.
Yes.
So these little things I always try to kind of create and help people with, and it'll be very meaningful, I think, for people to see
I
that.
think so. I think it'll be fun to do something like that. And
Why
I love
not?
tricks and tips. I love telling people, explaining those little things. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of the times I hammer them down because a lot of times I don't even realize that I'm doing them.
Mhm.
And I think that might be the only, and putting it up like 5, 10 of them together so people will know. But
Yeah.
the kitchen's not a scary place, guys.
Yeah,
It's
I think a
super
lot of
simple.
people feel that. It's so sad that, it's
You
easy
know-
to grab in and out.
You know what it is, and it's the unfortunate part is our parents didn't necessarily invite us into the kitchen.
Wow.
Our parents told us to stay away. Our parents,
That's
it was
right.
a little bit too much. It was too much effort to just. We were gonna be a little bit more messy. We were gonna be a little bit more. It's dangerous or whatever.
Dangerous, yes.
My kids I've never put guards on the gas for my kids. I've never had drawer locks for my kids. I gave my kids a knife at a very young age and showed them, this is how we cut. This thing is fire. Don't burn yourself.
Mhm.
And then when we cook, I invite them into the kitchen and I give them tasks. A year ago, so it was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. It was right after COVID-ish. When was it? It's been 2 years. It's been 4 years since COVID, but 2 years ago or so, we watched Home Alone with the kids. And we were like, my wife and I had an idea. We were like, what would these kids do if we were gone?
Ooh.
So they came, they go, what's for dinner? We go, whatever you're making us. They were super excited. So they're like, okay, we're making dinner. I go, yeah. So we sat down, I opened up a bottle of wine. We sat on the other side. We have like this kind of peninsula bar area. And I sat on the other side. The kitchen's on the other side. It's the view that everybody sees, right?
Oh, yes.
So where everybody sees from is where my guests usually sit. It's like a little kind of bar top. And we sat there with our glass of wine. And I said, the kitchen is free reign for you. The proteins are there. You guys make whatever you want. And they were like, okay, tell us what to do. And I go, we're not saying one word. And the four of them assembled a lot of things. And they had, there was a ribeye that they had access to. They had Ora King salmon, which is like the Wagyu of salmon. But they had the access to all of this stuff. And what we found out is some of it were not chefy practices. Some of it was very funny, but they were able to put together a full meal for us.
That's survival.
Yeah, from scratch, essentially. Now, there were some funny things. My kid was cooking a steak in a pan. My son walked over and he put the salmon in the same pan. So steak and salmon cooking in the same pan. My youngest daughter at the time was about 4. And she was like, I'm going to make pasta. So she took pasta. She put it into a strainer. She's like, I have to wet the pasta. And I was like, what? So she walked over to the sink and she turned on the pasta because in her mind, pasta needs to be wet.
Oh my goodness.
So she wet the pasta, and while she's doing that, my other son walks over with his salmon hands, and he washes his salmon hands over the pasta. Like, there were things happening that weren't necessarily.
Yes.
We had a strawberry and arugula salad. Things were happening that were a little bit strange. They made rice and with no timing, no measurements, no nothing. And I was like, I said, at the end of the day, you guys are going to eat all of this with us. We sat down. We actually ate a good meal. And what I learned
made by your children,
by our children, and what I learned was that, everything that we've taught them, and some of it we did not teach them, they've been absorbing. They've been watching. We've never kicked them out of the kitchen. We're not like, hey, go in there and do something else while I make dinner, and I'll call you when it's done. It's like, look, I know sometimes you can get busy, but we call them all the time. Come hang out with us. Hey, this is pretty much our only time. We're also busy. This is our time. Come hang out. Just sit and hang out with us and watch. And they've absorbed enough to where now they ask for that every day.
I think that what you just said is that, let me just go back. Inviting your children to the kitchen is important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But this is key to healthy eating.
Absolutely.
And that's what I translated that into. That's why I took a pause. I'm like, wow, this is actually incredibly powerful that you're guiding children to these ingredients.
Exactly.
Because you cannot have an 11-year-old, 10-year-old sit down and say, well, this is, a carcinogen. This is, blah, blah, blah. You'll lose interest.
Absolutely.
But the way you do it is so playful. Like, come on, let's all cook together.
Yes.
And that's what really interests children to healthy eating versus I don't know what the kitchen's about. Let's grab Carl's Jr. Let's grab In-N-Out. And that is probably the most meaningful
all of those foods,
statement.
If they go and they eat fast food, it's all going to be good to them. And giving them the opportunity to be in the kitchen, most kids will taste what they make. And if a kid is picky, have him make the food. Because when they make it, they'll go, oh, I'm going to try it. And then if not, you always tell them, I always say, you can't feed somebody something without tasting it yourself because they'll think it's poison and you're trying to kill them.
That's true. That is true. I was reading research a while ago, and it was talking about obesity and healthy eating. And a doctor who was conducting the research had written, you cannot put a stop to those things.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. And I got further in reading the research, and it talked about if we want to fight obesity and disease and all kinds of like health issues consuming food, we need to teach children from a young age because it's those little girls, it's those little boys who grow up to be parents.
Yes.
And they teach their children to eat. So
exactly.
I think when you say inviting children to the kitchen, it's a bigger statement.
It's so important. It's so important for our kids to cook It's so important for our kids to know what it's like to be in the kitchen.
Mhm.
It's important for our kids to know what real food is. I
The
mean,
texture of foods,
I
the taste of food,
when
absolutely.
I worked with Jamie Oliver, I ran into children that thought their eggs came from the grocery store and didn't know that it came from chickens.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? And these types of things,
Or how to boil an egg. There's kids that don't even understand.
I
It's
eat.
so
So
sad.
I try to get as much natural foods into us. I'm an avid bow hunter. I don't know if I told you that.
A bow hunter?
Yeah, so I'm an archer, and
You're a jack of all trades. What the heck is this?
so
Snowboarding,
yeah,
bow hunter,
yeah,
chef, musician.
there's a lot of
Wow.
things. There's a lot of things. So my biggest thing is I'm not a trophy hunter, and every time you tell somebody you're a hunter, everyone's like, "Oh, you don't kill giraffes, do you?" No, I don't. But if I did, I'd eat it.
Is that the first comment they say? Or
Always. People are always
my
like,
first comment, wow, he's jack of all trades.
So
definitely.
I bow hunt. I'm a huge
That's so
archer. I
fun.
love archery, and
You have a good eye for that, I'm sure.
I love the aspect of being out there in the wild and seeing what these animals are eating and being able to harvest an animal, bringing it home. And I do everything, the butchering, the fabrication.
What? You're a butcher too?
I do it all, A to Z, and I call it, it's from field to plate, or I say field to toilet.
Where did you learn to do that, though? That's a different technique, though.
So I just started researching it. I became an archer kind of when I started cooking.
Wow.
22, 23, maybe something like that. I don't know. But I fell in love. I picked up a bow for the first time and I said, this is magical. And I need this in my life. I shot a bow for the very first time.
What was the first animal you took down?
The first one was a wild boar.
Oh my God. How did that feel?
It was awesome. It was very cool. Here's the thing. I love animals. And I love animals.
I know we're gonna get all those
dearly.
Murderers.
Yeah, and it's not that. I'm not.
No.
Look, we eat. If you tell me you're against hunters and I don't love animals because I'm hunting, then you should be the person that never goes to the store and buys meat. And if you are a complete vegan and you hate hunters and you hate animals,
they eat avocados.
Yeah, it's.
Let's not get into where
it's
where
honestly,
that comes from and how it impacts the universe.
There is so much about eating protein that your body kind of needs.
Yes, it does.
And me going out and harvesting these proteins, knowing what these animals have eaten, the animal lived a good life, and I took that life to feed my family.
Yes.
Way better than going to the store and buying something that's packaged and cooking that. And yeah, that a lot of people, that's your only choice. But I've worked hard at being able to do this, and I get it from the field. I bring it to my plate, and now I'm eating wild, free range, organic. I'm feeding my children what I have put a lot of work into.
Wow.
And I also pair that meat with what those animals are eating. So if I go and hunt deer and the deer is eating sage, I cook the meat with sage, and it's next level chefing.
Next level. You are such an interesting human being. I can sit down and talk to you for like 5 hours. You're so intellectual, though. Like I'm sure. I mean, you probably read and do research, and
there's a lot of research.
Probably you do that. You have all this wealth of knowledge.
There's a lot of research that's always being done. It's like a deep dive into everything.
Well, I think that your dada, is that what you call him?
No, deep dive.
No. Your grandpa.
Oh, Dede.
Dede. He should be so proud. Is he alive?
Yes, he is not. My Nene and Dede long passed, and they were my everything. And I've always looked up to them, and I still, to this day, try to live up to their expectations.
Well, I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
I'm sure your family's like super proud, and your kids are like, this is, you are giving them the life.
My kids don't know any different, so they think everything is normal, and it's pretty
they're
funny.
Super humble.
They're like, yeah, that's my dad. He's doing stuff again. Yeah, that's my dad.
There's dad with the deer.
Yeah. It's totally normal. Dad, did you kill anything today? Oh, that's fine. Oh, cool. Like, oh, look, here's this.
What are we eating today?
Yeah, we go out now. I get photos taken of me, and they're like, Dad, do you know that person? I go, no. They're taking a picture. Like, oh, okay, cool. Nobody took pictures of you today.
How is that for you? Tell me, how are you accepting that attention?
I love it.
Yeah?
I love it. I love it.
You seem like the type, like you mesh
I love it.
in.
It's fun. I've always wanted to be kind of in the limelight of things, and when these things started happening, I was very excited about it. I never turn anybody away. I'm
Yeah,
always just, I
as I.
love it. And I think it's so fun. And I think it's so cool when people see me on the street and they're like, hey, they'll be like, Abo guy. They'll be like, hey, can I take a picture? I go,
I
absolutely.
love
Some
that.
people are always, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, if you see me on the street, come say hi.
Yeah.
I will give you a hug and we can take a picture and hang out and it'll be fine.
That is the most
I enjoy
nicest
it.
thing. You know, you see, this is interesting because men are different in this area than women. Women tend to be a little bit more scared, like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, but men are so much more welcoming. I've
Yeah.
seen that.
I could see, if you're like a woman in the limelight, it's a little bit like intimidating when like
Yeah.
6 guys rush you, like, let's take a picture. You're like, whoa, chill out.
My wife follows you.
Yeah, my wife loves you.
Yeah,
Can I
she's
hug
telling
you
me
now?
to change, and
Yeah.
I don't like that. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Honestly, it's
funny.
but it's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it. I love it. I live it up.
Well, Ara, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you for having me.
It was such an amazing conversation. I mean, I called you. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And you're like,
Yes.
I can go on and on and on and on about everything and anything. Now I know what you're saying.
All day.
I would love to have you on again.
Let's do it.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
Absolutely.